Hey champion guitar players, I'm Tom Hess, and today I show you 3 easy ways you can build more speed on the guitar pretty quickly. So if you've been looking for some easy ways to increase your guitar speed, you're in the right place. I've taught these same easy speed building tactics to many of my private online students, and today it's your turn to get started. Now, before you grab your guitar, I've got another video on YouTube that you're going to need. It's called Guitar Warm-Up Exercises Step-by-Step Tutorial. You'll need that video if you're not already warmed up. If you are warmed up, let's go. Let me start off by asking you a question. Why would a lick like this one be challenging to play higher than, let's say, 175 or 180 beats per minute on the metronome? Even if you have the skills to play other licks much faster than that, 200, 210, 250, why is it that this kind of lick on the screen is harder to get that kind of speed? The answer is that we have the repetition, the frequent repetition of the same finger. So you see that the 4th finger is used for every other note of the lick. Now, it's not that this finger is the problem. I mean, at least it shouldn't be. It's that this finger, or any finger, but this one in this particular case, has to play very often with only one other finger playing in between every time this guy repeats. That's the challenge here. It's not really a challenge for this hand. It's not really a challenge for these other fingers. It's pretty much the constant repetition of the same finger. In this case, it's this finger. So if you wanted to work on this particular lick, or a lick like this, or any lick where you've got constant repetition using the same finger, what's really important is that after you play that finger, that you don't send a signal from your brain to that finger, to this side of the finger, to lift off. Instead, you want to send a different signal from your brain to this side of the finger that says basically stop doing what you're doing. Stop engaging the muscles to fret the notes. So when you play this, you're engaging the muscles here on this part of your finger and in your hand to go down and fret the note, okay? So if you start engaging the muscles here to take the finger back, to launch it back, you're kind of fighting against yourself, okay? Because the momentum is down, and now you're trying to put the momentum off, and you're kind of fighting against. What you want to do is just get this side of the finger to relax. You want this finger to stop doing what it's doing. Just stop. And when you stop, this finger kind of just pops off by itself. So that requires less effort on your part to get the finger to relax off the note instead of to launch off the note. So yes, there's going to be some effort maybe on this side, but you don't want to be fighting against yourself. So when you're practicing and you're done here, just kind of relax the finger and watch it. It'll just come off, okay? That's what you're trying to go for, is to get the finger to relax, not to launch. So when you have a lick with a repeated finger, okay, that's going to be an easier way to increase the speed on the guitar without having to use brute force in order to do it. So as you saw, the last example I just showed you was pretty simple. We just have one challenge, and that's to deal with the repetition of the same finger. But what if we have a lick like this? Something like that. Here, you'll notice that we don't have that same challenge really. So we don't have one finger that's playing every other note. You will notice that the middle finger has a couple of spots where it has only one other finger in between before it has to play again. So we have a little bit of the problem or the challenge that we had in the last example. But why is this particular lick challenging to play at your highest speeds? Right? So this lick is not as easy to play fast as, let's say, sweep picking and arpeggio, for example. All right. Why? Well, a little bit because of the repetition of the middle finger, but there's actually a bigger reason. And that is if you look at the picking motions, when the strings change, you'll notice something, okay? So when we're on the first 5 notes, we're just using alternate picking here. Or directional picking would be the same. But then, after we play the 5th note, the last note on string 1, our pick is moving in that direction. We just put it with a downstroke. And now we've got to move to string number 2, and that's going to be an upstroke. So we've got to, our pick now has to, after playing the 11th fret with a downstroke, the pick has to jump over string 1 without touching it, and then come back over here to string number 2. Well, that's harder. That requires this hand to move faster than it's moving when we're on the same string. Okay, your picking hand actually has to accelerate faster than it is moving when we're on the same string because we have an inefficient motion in this hand. Our pick's going in that direction, and we've got to play a note on a new string in that direction. That slows down. That's sort of the bottleneck for a lick like this. Now you'll notice once we get to string 2, so I'm right in the middle of the measure. Okay, I'm on fret 14, string 2. I just played 10 notes. Where is the pick now going? I just played an upstroke. So the pick is moving in this direction, but the very next note we need to play is on string 1. We need to now go in this direction. That means that the pick now has to jump over string 2 without touching it, go over to string 1 and hit it with a downstroke. That, again, is slowing down our picking. So now we have to accelerate fast again, all right? So the challenge here, really, the main challenge, is that our picking hand isn't moving at a consistent speed. It's a consistent speed when we're just going down and up and down and up on the same string. But when we change strings, because we're not sweeping here, we have to jump over a string. Now the picking hand has to move faster than it normally does. And the problem here isn't that the picking hand has to move faster, or it's not that it has to move fast, okay? I mean, you can go like this and move your hand really fast, right? I mean, your grandmother could do that probably and move pretty quick. It's not that the motion is fast, that's the problem. The challenge is that there's a change of speed, okay? So your hand's going at one speed, and now all of a sudden it has to go much faster for a very short period of time, and then it's got to slow down again to go back to playing notes, alternate picking on one string. Then it's got to go fast again for a very brief time, and then it's got to go slow again, or slower, okay? Those changes is what's causing the big challenge of a lick like this. This in combination with a little bit of the repetition of the middle finger. As you see, like, for example, note 2 and note 4, it's the same finger with only one other finger in between. So it doesn't get much of a break. So we need to take some of the speed building things we learned in the first example, relax the finger off, don't launch it off, and then we have to train our picking hand to modulate between a medium fast speed and then a really fast speed just for one note as we change strings, and then slow back down to our moderately fast speed once we are playing notes on the same string again, okay? So now we know exactly what the challenges of a lick like this is. We've laid it out, we got those two things. What can you do? How should you practice? How should you train to overcome these particular challenges? Well, the repetition of the same finger we talked about in the previous example. Okay, I gave you that already. Now, the change of the speed here in the picking hand, you should do this. Just forget the left hand. We don't need it. Cover up your strings. Take your fretting hand, just cover the strings. And instead, just focus on making the motions of the picking hand only. And what I want you to notice is how much faster you have to move to get from string 1 to string 2. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Getting to that 6th note. That has to be quick. So your hand has to move faster. Just practice that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the first note of the new string. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Or you can count it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. And really focus on getting that hand to move. It's almost a quick jerk to get to the next string. Okay. And then once it's here, you got the same thing. On string 2, start with an upstroke, because that's what you would have to use for this lick. I'm on string 2 now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then quick jerk to string 1. Just be careful that you jump over string 2 and you don't hit it. Okay, you don't swipe the string on your way over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. It's a quick jerk back. And you should really concentrate on what it feels like to move that hand fast just for that split second. But then once you get there, it's got to slow down again. You can't maintain that same speed because we need to slow down in order to handle the alternate picking motions on the same string. Okay, so that's how I would recommend you train to solve this challenge. All right, before we get into the next example here, I've got another video on YouTube, which is where this next example is going to come from. It's called Guitar Speed Builder, Easy, Fast Scale Sequences. So in that video, there's a lot of easy scale sequences that you can play and build up speed with pretty quick. All right, now let's check out the next example here. And what you're going to see is a group of 7 notes. These are called septuplets. When you have 16th notes that are grouped in groups of 7. Okay, so we're dividing a beat into 7 equal parts. Okay, so it's 1 note less than what 32nd notes would be, where we would have 8. Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, now here's what I want you to notice. I'm going to play the lick. I'll play it pretty slow so you can hear what it's going to sound like. Now, what I want you to notice is 2 things. First, the challenge that we had in the very first example, remember that? That was this one? Okay, that guy, where we had the 4th finger playing every other note. We don't have a lot of that here with this lick. It occurs a little bit with the 3rd finger sometimes with the middle finger, but it's not happening so frequently anymore. All right, so that makes it easier for the fretting hand. Now, in terms of the picking hand, what's going to make this particular sequence easier for you to play fast is that every time that you change strings, you get to use a sweep picking motion. That does 2 things. One, it reduces the chance of the picking hand making a mistake, okay, because we don't have to jump over any strings. And the second thing that it does is it eliminates completely the challenge we had in the second example. That's the one where when we changed strings, because we had an inefficient movement that we had to jump over the string, that meant that the picking hand had to move faster every time we changed strings. And that change of speed makes that lick substantially harder for the picking hand. In this example, that's all been eliminated. Okay, so when we start off here, we've got our, first 7 notes. I'll just play the first string. So we're going to end with a downstroke, okay, on note number 5. Now we've ended with a downstroke. Our pick is already in between string 6 and string 5. All we got to do is continue that downstroke to get to the next string. Okay, I'll play it one more time real slow here, okay? The first 6 notes. Down, up, down, up, down, down again. Okay? So now we don't need to rush the picking hand like we did in the previous example. So it's way more efficient. So it's easier to build speed this way because we're not restricted or forced into awkward changes in speed for the picking hand. It's so much more relaxed to do this. It's super smooth. In fact, probably if this kind of lick is new to you, most likely the biggest technical challenge you might have is you might actually get to the next string when changing strings faster in the picking hand than you need to, because you may be used to having to rush to change strings. So here you can totally relax, and it's important that you do relax, otherwise the pick gets there too early. Okay, so it's really easy to build the speed in the picking hand because there are no inefficient motions required to pick this. So it's butter easy. It's real easy once you get used to it. If this is new to you, if you're used to playing strict alternate picking, this may feel a little awkward to you at first. But once you work with this for some time, and it could take, 3-4 weeks, could take longer, could take a couple months. But once you do, and it gets really smooth, you will be able to rip through this because it's pretty easy for the left hand. It's real easy for the picking hand once you get the basic sweep picking motions down. So the main thing is relax when you change strings and do the sweep picking motion. Now, don't relax to the point where the articulation suffers. We don't want to have weak, wimpy picking. We still want to pick the notes, with a decent amount of, power. Okay, I'm still hitting those notes fairly hard, okay, but I'm relaxed when doing so, especially when changing strings. So it's a balance. You want to relax, but not to the point where it sounds like you're barely hitting those strings, okay? Hit the strings in the most relaxed way you can, especially when changing strings. So today we've been talking a lot about fast guitar licks and sequences and how to train to improve guitar speed based on different sorts of technical challenges. Now I give you 3. There are many, 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 many more, but you've got a good start. Now if you want to build more guitar speed with your fretting hand, you will love my new free e-guide called Mastering Fretting Hand Finger Independence for Guitar Players. It's totally free, no strings attached. I think you're going to love this. So click on the link below to download your copy and start to get your fretting hand to play with more ease, more clarity, and just a whole lot faster.